Police officer who died in Pangani blast laid to rest.
In getting involved in political activities at your counties and abandoning your roles as required by law.
Government puts pressure on chiefs as focus shifts in security operations. IGA presidents move quickly to consolidate progress after Salva Kiir agreed to meet Machar. And doing roaring business without ever uttering a word. Meet Paul and Stephen.
KTN Weekend Prime with Yvonne Okwara.
A very good evening to you this third Saturday, the 3rd day of May 2014, first Saturday of the month. Welcome to KTN Weekend Prime. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we start off with the breaking news this evening out of Mombasa County. An explosion at Mwembe Tayari has left at least 3 people dead. The explosion happened just about an hour and a half ago at a bus stage. We're now joined on phone by Nelson Mara, who's the Mombasa County Commissioner, to give us more details on the blast that took place there. Wana Commissioner, thank you for joining us this evening on KTN Weekend Prime. Bring us up to speed. We're hearing not just in Mwembe Tayari, but another outside Reef Hotel in Nyari. Please bring us up to speed with the latest.
Yes, thank you so much. We are at the Mwembe Tayari. I think at the Mwembe Tayari, a grenade was hurled at the bus. Unfortunately, the bus was not carrying passengers. It managed to cause injuries, and we have 3 casualties. And these were people waiting for the bus to Karoreni and Mikindani, because the bus was not carrying any passenger. At the Reef Hotel, we have no casualties. A visitor just entered, just like normal, went to swim, and then he left a bag which later exploded at the beach. And there was a stampede, but there is no casualties at the beach, the Reef Hotel. So far, that's the position on the ground, but we have managed to calm the station and condoned everywhere, and the security now is pumping for the suspects who are supposed to have escaped on a motorbike. Okay. There were 2 of them.
All right, okay. You said no casualties in the blast that took place at the Reef Hotel in Nyali. Any persons injured in that one?
No, we don't have any casualties at Nyali.
Okay.
No casualties at the Reef Hotel.
All right. And in Mwembe Tayari, you, just to clarify again, you said that the blast took place, or rather, was it a grenade that I believe you said was hurled at a bus?
It was a grenade which was thrown at the passengers who are waiting for matatus and the buses towards Kaloleni and the Mikindani.
All right.
Right.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And you're still hunting down the suspects you mentioned?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for those details. We will continue to speak to you. Yes, and we have been speaking to the Mombasa County Commissioner, Nelson Mara, who's briefed us of what is happening there. We also have Hersi Mohammed, who's from the coast, of course, very heavy in Mohammed Hersi in the tourism sector, to just tell us about Reef Hotel specifically. Mohammed, thank you for joining us tonight. You are tweeting that Reef Hotel is intact. Is that correct?
Reef Hotel is very intact. What happened was that in the evening, there is a bar on the beach, and somebody came and left the bag there. And later on, that gentleman was not seen again, and there were 2 beach boys who decided to take the bag and take it to the main gate and to surrender it at the sentry. As they are opening and inspecting what was inside, they discovered that there was contraptions, which is certainly an IED, and there were wires that are connected. They took off and it blew off. The blast went. And that's exactly what happened. So Reef Hotel is not affected. Reef Hotel is very safe and intact, and I'll appeal to Kenyans to stop tweeting that our hotel has been blown and Reef Hotel has been blasted etc., and that is not good for business.
Indeed, Mohammed, and you're making this clarification because for many, they know that the summer season is fast approaching and there'll be many tourists who will be likely affected by this news.
You know, such news is certainly not good for us, but at the end of the day, this is something that we are now getting accustomed to. But the good news is that the Reef Hotel is safe and intact, so there is no any casualty. Where we do have a casualty is in town. We've been to the site. I can confirm 2 dead. There was a male and a female casualty. But something was thrown at the crowd that was waiting for a bus around the Chania opposite Costa, which is the Colonel Kobil petrol station. Again, the area has been secured. There were a couple of injuries, I think almost around 15. But I don't. We will need to confirm whether there were anybody that have been seriously hurt. But we can confirm 2 deaths there. But the one that happened on the North Coast, it's not at Nyali Beach Hotel.
Okay.
It happened outside Reef Hotel, but
Yes.
Reef Hotel is also intact, and there is no problem there.
All right, okay. Mohammed Hersi there from the
You're
coast
welcome.
speaking to us. We thank you very much for your time this evening. Let's have a recap now and just tell you what's happening. Mohammed Hersi has just spoken to us and he says Reef Hotel is intact. All the guests and staff are safe and sound. This was an IED that was found in a plastic bag, and upon inspection it was found to be an explosive device. And of course it says, please do not tweet about a blast in Reef Hotel. Of course, news like this heavily affecting the tourism industry. What we heard from Nelson Mara, who's the county commissioner, just telling us about the blast in Wembatayari. A grenade was hurled at a bus stop there. People waiting to go to various other areas within the coast region. 3 people dead and others injured. And of course, he says they're hunting down 2 suspects who are believed to have taken off on a motorbike. We will keep you updated with these stories as we carry on with our bulletin, so keep it KTN for that. Still staying on matters of terrorism, one of the 2 police officers who died in the Pangani car blast was laid to rest at his rural home in Baringo County. Nairobi police boss Benson Kibue says the death of Samuel Cheptuk and his colleague has only made officers even more determined in their fight against terror elements. Samuel Gina begins our coverage tonight with that story.
The police force led mourners in Baringo County in the burial ceremony of the late Samuel Cheptuk, who was killed in the Pangani car blast. Nairobi police boss Benson Kibue marshaled his officers to pay their last respects to a fallen comrade who died in the line of duty. Cheptuk alongside Constable Francis Murage were blown up in a car they were escorting to Pangani police station. It was an emotional send-off, especially for the 2 widows and 10 children Cheptuk is leaving behind.
Hao walibaki, Mwenyezi Mungu aliamua wabaki ili iwe ni living testimony. Ingawa tuko na uchungu sana, na tunashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kwamba mwenzetu ako hapa, tunamsindikiza.
The police service has pledged 1 million shillings to the family to cater for the education of Cheptuk's children and the well-being of the entire family. Further, the Inspector General of Police, whose message was delivered by the Nairobi police boss, says he will ensure the deceased benefits are fast-tracked, saying the deaths of the police officers while pursuing terror elements has just emboldened the war on terror.
Sisi tutaendelea na hiyo nguvu kwa sababu iko machungu mengi sana. Nyinyi mnalia kupoteza shujaa, Wakenya wanalia kupoteza mashujaa wawili. Hatutarudi nyuma, tutaendelea na kazi yetu ambayo tumepewa na Constitution ya Kenya ambayo tunaipenda.
To honor their fallen soldier, the police fired home 21-gun salute. The police urged Kenyans to fully embrace and implement the Nyumba Kumi initiative to flush out any suspicious elements. This as an honor to the killed officers who died while trying to protect Kenyans from terror attacks. Meanwhile, in Bomet County, Interior and Coordination Cabinet Secretary Joseph Olelenku has warned chiefs against being partisan and working with county governments as political activists. Lenku was meeting provincial administration officers from Kericho, Bomet and Narok counties, where he rapped some chiefs for duplicating their roles due to the influence of county governments.
Those of you who will try to double deal will be made to choose who to serve. You will have to take one role.
The Interior Cabinet Secretary directed the chiefs to enforce the Nyumba Kumi initiative and act as the national government's eyes in the locations and sub-locations to ensure security. Samogina, KTN.
Now, IGAD leaders are now moving quickly to consolidate the progress of the intervention in the South Sudan crisis after President Salva Kiir accepted face-to-face talks with Riek Machar. President Uhuru Kenyatta told Kiir today that IGAD will not accept any fragmentation of the peace talks underway in Ethiopia.
President Salva Kiir's meeting with President Uhuru comes only a day after he held talks with the UN Secretary of State John Kerry in Juba. Kiir revealed the position of his government on the mediation efforts, seeming to suggest that Juba prefers the intervention of the IGAD countries rather than the West. After their talks in South Sudan's capital Juba on Friday, Kerry revealed that President Kiir had expressed his willingness to meet with rebel leader Riek Machar under Ethiopian mediation.
He agreed to embark on negotiations to form a transitional government that can lead the nation back from the abyss. I congratulate him for his willingness to do that, and I look forward, as the world will, to watching him lead the nation back from this abyss.
And now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has told Kiir that IGAD will not accept fragmentation of the peace talks that have been faltering since they began in Addis Ababa in January. A ceasefire agreed upon in late January was violated almost immediately by both sides in the conflict. Human rights organizations are saying the violence has left thousands dead and possibly tens of thousands, with at least 1.2 million people forced to flee their homes, many living in appalling conditions in overstretched UN bases. Now, Tino, KTN, Weekend Prime.
The brother of a 17-year-old girl is still puzzled after the girl was arrested, charged and remanded in custody over illegal power connections at their place of residence. The 30-year-old unemployed man wonders why the authorities would pounce on the schoolgirl when they are merely tenants utilizing services provided by their landlord.
This informal settlement called Sewage near Kariobangi Light Industries is where Lynette Awino, a 17-year-old girl, was last month arrested by police and Kenya Power workers during a raid on structures with illegal power connections.
Kazi yangu inakuanga tu kutoka asubuhi kurudi usiku. Kutoka asubuhi kurudi usiku. Hasa mambo ya hiyo mambo ya stima sijuani kabisa. Hata sijawahi uliza mwenye plot kwa sababu sina haja na stima, sababu hata sina chombo cha kutumia stima hapo.
According to her brother, Lynette was found washing clothes when the Kenya Power team pounced on her. They had moved into the rental structure 5 days earlier.
Napata mwingine hapo, nikauliza naweza kupata vacant, ati kuna vacant. Nikauliza naweza kupata nani pesa, ati nipatie tu. Na simu, huyo mama simjui, hata kama angenipotelea na pesa sijui. Sasa nikampatia pesa. Vile nilimpatia mpaka sasa sijawahi muona. Lakini nakaa.
When police arrested Lynette, Onyango was out job hunting. When he heard what had happened, he rushed to the police station where she was being held.
Kajaribu kufuatilia, nikapata ako Mutaiga police station. Kufika hapo hivyo, ningeweza kuongea nao lakini wakakataa. Nikasema sasa mtoto mdogo, hakuna haja kumshika. Heri mimi ningemnishika mniingize ndani sababu ya huyu mtoto siwezi. Walikataa. Wakasema faili yake ilishaandikwa ati ndio mwenye makosa.
Onyango questions why Kenya Power workers arrested his sister and not the landlord.
Kuna wakati nilienda mpaka kwa ofisi ya watu wa Power walimshika. Nikauliza. Wakasema hiyo stima vile ilipatikana kwa hiyo ploti, hata kama wangepata mtoto mdogo wangemshika. Hizo shida zote za kwa mwenye ploti, si mwenye amepanga nyumba.
Lynette was charged at the Makadara Law Courts mid last month.
Swali limeulizwa, atulipatikana na hiyo kosa ama ukupatikana nayo? Wakasema hakupatikana na hiyo kosa, baadaye akapelekwa remand. Hiyo ndio sasa walikuwa wanasema mpaka hearing ndio mpaka mwezi wa 8, mwezi wa 7 tarehe 4.
Interestingly, Onyango told us his underage sister Lynette Awino is remanded at Langata Women Prison under the name of Lynette Ochoki after the family failed to raise 50,000 shillings cash bail.
Singeweza sababu hata sina otherwise, sina mapato yote. Wazazi wangu pia hawana hata chochote za kutoa. Ama nikuambia tu uangalie mabashamba shamba tuna space tu kidogo hivi.
Onyango is worried that his underage sister might end up in jail.
Nasikiliza serikali ingenisaidia mpatie hata surety hata ya 5k, hiyo ndio inaweza kumanage.
Patrick Amimo, KTN Weekend Edition.
Now, they find it almost impossible to secure formal employment in Kenya, and seemingly simple tasks such as banking their money is beyond their grasp. The Makonde, members of an ethnic group that has made its home in the country's coastal region, say the government has forgotten them. Bulletin has the story of the Makonde who migrated from their original homeland in Mozambique long before Kenya gained her independence.
The deep creases on their faces cannot conceal the dark markings etched on the skin of the older members of the Makonde community. Years after they left home, these facial tattoos identify members of an ethnic group that now finds itself stuck between two countries, never fully belonging to either. The Makonde hail from Mozambique. Hundreds of Makonde refugees and freedom fighters left their home country in the 1950s to work in the sisal farms at the Kenyan coast. Many intermarried with Kenyans and decided to stay. Never having visited Mozambique, their children learnt nothing but the local languages. But they still don't belong. The Makonde do not have Mozambican identification documents, as many were born here, but they do not hold Kenyan identification cards either, and this causes all sorts of complications. For example, in Kenya, school children are required to produce birth certificates before sitting national examinations. It is also a struggle to secure employment.
Hata kama ni askari gongo wende mali wa askari tu hivi, mtu anakuambia ulete kibali, huna. Sasa pesa pengine ya kujikimu au ya kumuendeleza mtoto wako au ya kujiendeleza wewe mwenyewe binafsi inakuwa ngumu.
Given that they cannot open bank accounts, some deposit their money in their friends' accounts, while others hide their money under their beds.
Tabidi kimbia chini. Panya akichukua basi, hasa utaendezeeka wapi?
But the Makonde have not always been out in the cold. In 1963, the Makonde were allowed to vote.
Kenyatta akatupatia nini? Vitambulisho. Kenyatta akatupatia nini? Vitambulisho. Kumpigia nani? Kenyatta na Ngara tulimpigia hiyo. Miaka mingapi tayari wakatunyang'anya, akasema nyinyi wageni tupatie. Wakati wa kubariki nani? Kenyatta.
The Makonde are known for their exceptional wood carving skills. Carving sculptures enables them to earn an income. Lack of national identity cards has hindered many of them from engaging in more lucrative commercial activities. It also limits their movements as they fear being arrested and labeled illegal aliens. In the face of Kenya's reluctance to acknowledge their presence, would they rather return to Mozambique?
Mama amekufa, baba amekufa, bibi amekufa. Hata wao wanataka kutuweka sehemu gani?
Wajua mtu anajivunia kwao. Mtu anajivunia kwao. Mimi nimezola huku coast. Najua papa nazi, najua miembe, najua hasa kinipeleka kule wanaanzisha maisha mengine ambayo sitayaweza.
Mimi nataka Kenya. Ninaomba hiyo, ninaomba. Niwe nini? Mwana Kenya hiyo. Ninaomba hiyo, njia kama hiyo.
In the olden times, the Makonde etched markings onto their faces so that no matter how far from home they went, they could always identify each other. In Kenya, the facial tattoos simply set them apart. Those who carry the mark know that they do not belong yet. Bulletin, KTN.
Interesting one there from Wilkis-Tanyaba on the Makonde people there. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission says they cannot say much now about the plans to pay two firms in connection with the controversial Anglo leasing contracts. But the CEO, Muba Matemu, maintains the commission never stopped probing the deals.
We have been running investigations on the various Anglo leasing matters, and the investigations are still going on. And we so far have said whatever else happens, the investigations should not be compromised. I would also like to tell you that the law on mutual legal assistance is now in place, and because of that, we are able to broaden our investigations on Anglo leasing.
Investigations still ongoing, with a word that has come to be an ugly word in Kenyan politics, Anglo-leasing. Tonight we're speaking to the man who first tabled documents regarding this whole saga in Parliament 10 years ago. That's how far back this stretches for my MP Malcolm Aure. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Who are the players? The word shadowy comes up so often when we're talking about Anglo-leasing. You know, when David Miraria first said that this was a scandal that never was, money was refunded from whom we don't know. Even to date, as the government says we want to pay this 1.4 billion, it's still not clear. Who in your mind are the players in this whole saga? Who are we paying?
No, I think the issue that arises is whoever is paying knows who they are paying. They will tell you they don't know who they are paying, but I'm sure there's something called KYC in any account holder in a bank. Somebody says, this is my address, this is my name, this is my ID or passport number. Surely somebody knows more than they are disclosing. Now, the fact that it has taken 10 years and we are still having investigations ongoing, I think we are on the third Anti-Corruption Commission director. First it was Ringera, then after Ringera there was temporarily when John Mutonyi, who was there for about a year, then Lumumba came in. Lumumba came in after Ringera, then Mutonyi almost a year. I think it is just a musical chairs game.
Do you believe Momo Matemu saying they will investigate? Do you think we'll ever get to the bottom of this scandal?
Well, to say you are investigating and investigating, those are two different issues. So whether he is doing it or not, I wouldn't vouch to say yes or no. Whether I believe he is doing something on it or not, that would be my personal opinion. It will not help much. But I know the complexity of the shadowy nature of it is that if a crime is committed by civilians, you and me, citizen versus citizen, the Republic comes in. Now the Republic comes in and intervenes and defines it as a crime. Now you have a crime by the Republic. A political establishment like the one we have, the payment that is due, for example, is of the postal or satellite devices that were supposed to have been supplied in 1998-99.
That's right.
That was during the Moi administration. Then we come in the Kibaki administration. They inherited 6 of them that were ongoing during the Moi administration. Within a span of a year, they added theirs 12. Then we have elections that happened. Kibaki left office. He added over to a new administration. So we have like an umbilical cord tying the 3 regimes of Moi, Kibaki, and now Uhuru government is under pressure to pay. They will pretend they are not party to it, but you know the government is a continuous entity.
Right, regardless of who is at the helm of it. Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich has said that this will adversely affect our financial standing, particularly with reference to the sovereign bond, which is now going to be a big part of our budget 2013-2014. Do you believe, some people are saying this is 1.4 billion Kenya shillings. The sovereign bond is 1.5 billion US dollars. Some saying that is a bit of a drop in the ocean and that might not affect us. Of course, the CS is saying it's a matter of reputation and whether we do adhere to the law. Do you believe the CS when he says if we don't pay this money, we'll be in trouble?
Well, I believe he is right in the sense that it is the government in trouble, having put itself in trouble. If I remember during the transactions of Anglo-leasing cases in Europe, the British Serious Fraud Office came forward and said they had the information from UK and Switzerland that they were keen to share with the Kenyan government. That was in 2007. So they wrote and said, we are ready to give this information to you so that you can use and prosecute the case.
Did we use that information?
Then the issue was between the Attorney General and the Anti-Corruption Director at that time. You pick the information and use it. Of course, they were not very enthusiastic about it, so they never picked it. 4 months later, the Serious Fraud Office wrote and said, if you don't want to use this information, we are closing the case. However, we are going to reopen in case you raise, you decided to use it.
And to date?
To date, nobody is keen on it.
What does that tell you about successive governments? You've talked about the umbilical cord tying them.
The issue is that...
do you think there's will in the government?
Since there is a court order, and there's nobody who has complained about a court order. The court order was against the Kenyan government. So in the wisdom of the Kenyan government, they have not found it necessary to challenge it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you this one as we close. MPs recently said, the Jubilee MPs, after their meeting with the CS, they will not be used as rubber stamps. They say theirs is an oversight authority, and they're in effect throwing it back to cabinet. What next? What happens from here now?
I think it is a matter of the government to decide what to do. Unless they challenge that court ruling, it remains a court order.
Do you think there's still room to challenge that? Appeal and appeals that the Kenyan government has lost?
I want you to believe nobody has actually made a decision to appeal. Because you don't appeal when you don't defend yourself at the preliminary stage.
So what are you saying?
No, there wasn't an intention to appeal. Because there wasn't an intention to defend in the first place. So the court ruling was done. Once it is done, and the court ruling is there, the sovereign body you are looking for as a government, they will tell you, no, we can't deal with you because your credit rating is low. And the moment you don't, actually is what you call, you do it, you are damned, you don't, you are damned.
So then we have to pay, in your opinion?
I wouldn't say about the payment. My opinion may not help. You know, they can decide to pay. Whether we say they pay or not, it won't matter.
Okay, all right. And we have to leave it at that. Thank you very much, former Member of Parliament Maoka Maore, who first tabled the Anglo leasing documents in Parliament 10 years ago, giving us his perspective on the way forward when it comes to paying that 1.4 billion shillings to these Anglo leasing companies. And of course, that conversation will continue. Which way forward? Like he says, damned if we do, damned if we don't. Is that your opinion? Do let us know on our Twitter feed. Right now, KTN Weekend Prime takes a break. Back with more news. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching KTN Weekend Prime. Now, you have seen in marketplaces how vicious the competition is between those who sell their merchandise there. Each seller has to shout or use sweet words to capture clients. But in this next story, a couple of young men compete with others at Mudhurwa Market, yet they can neither speak nor hear. Take a look at this.
At exactly 11 in the morning, we make a visit to Stephen Chege and Paul Miohe. The two brothers own this shoe shop in Mudhurwa Market in Nairobi. Just like any other business person here, they too are fighting to win over customers to buy from them. But they are different from the rest. Their way is so silent with a lot of gestures.
Baadaye nikaanza kutafuta kazi, maisha yalikuwa magumu kupata kazi. Kwa hivyo nikasema niende nyumbani kwanza nikae, alafu baadaye nikaamua kurudi Nairobi, nikafanya kwa viwandani huko kwa Wahindi, nikaanza kujifunza mambo ya printing. Kama unavyoona hiyo t-shirt yangu, kama miaka 10 hivi.
Stephen and Peter were born without hearing, and neither can they speak. Their determination to make it in life was so strong that it managed to silence any outer noise that ever tried to discourage them. Here at the market, they have had to devise clever ways to overcome their challenges and attract more clients to this business. They have made their prices slightly cheaper than their competitors, and the price tags speak loud and clear.
Nikaenda college ya computer nikasoma, baadaye nikatafuta kazi sikuweza kupata. Nikafikiria nimsaidie ndugu yangu, jirani yangu alikuwa na pikipiki. Nikaenda nikachukua pikipiki nikaanza kufanya kama boda boda.
They sometimes bargain with their customers in writing, negotiating and finally reaching an agreement. However, it is occasionally a sweet surprise when a client understands sign language. Christabel Mutimba is a long-time client of theirs. However, they still feel isolated as some customers avoid them, claiming that sign language is time-consuming.
Mungu mwenyewe ndio alituumba. Hata nilipozaliwa nikiwa sisikii. Na watu wako tofauti. Kuna wengine hawezi ongea, wengine ni bubu, wengine hawasikii. Mungu mwenyewe ndio ana vile kwa mapenzi yake ndio ametuumba.
Steven wishes to grow his business even more. They say being challenged is not a curse, just a motivation to work harder than the rest.
Si vizuri kuonea haya ama kujiona haya. Kama mimi ikiwa nafanya biashara hii, kuna wale ambao ni vibofu, ambao hawasikii, kuna wengine pia ni vilema. Nijaribu, tushirikiane pamoja. Tujaribu chochote ambacho unaweza kufanya. Usiogope.
Theirs is a story of determination, drive and the courage to compete in an unequal playing field.
Right, now when his mother explained to him that his father had died in Somalia, 12-year-old Chege Njoroge was distraught. But 2 years on, this shy little boy has come a long way in his healing process. He is our survivor this week.
After her husband's death, Wangoi Njoroge had to move her children here so they could start a new chapter in their lives. Adjusting to the life of a single parent is hard for her, not just emotionally, but financially. The housewife has had to do all she can to maintain the lifestyle her husband provided for his family.
Wanapata shida ya maisha juu watoto kama hawa baba wao kama angekuwa wangeishi na maisha baba wangependa ama wangesoma mpaka pale wangeweza juu bado ni wadogo sana.
While his younger sister may not remember her father when she grows up, 12-year-old Chege Njoroge does not have that luxury. He remembers everything.
I remember that he was a very good person, and he didn't like much, but he was a very good person.
But yeah, aliniambia hawapigani na Al-Shabaab. Aliniambia wanapigana na tela wenye wametoka countries zingine juu watu wenye wanapigana nao wengine ni wazungu. Na akaniambia sasa huko ni Mungu tu. Hiyo ndio ile kitu aliniambia mwisho.
Mama alipigiwa simu. Kupigiwa simu akatuambia ati anaenda huko Wankia kuconfirm kwanza kama ni yeye alikuwa ameumia ama ni yeye alikuwa amekufa. Akaenda tulikuwa tunamngojea. After maybe 30 minutes kurudi saa ndio akatuambia. Wakati huo nilisikia mbaya na lakini sasa niko poa.
Chege notices the changes between the life he lived when his father was alive and how they live now.
Saizi sio kama venye tulikuwa zamani. Zamani kulikuwa kubaya sana, sio kama saizi. Kama wakati huo hatuko na stima. Sasa zile kabla hata tujakuja huku ilikuwa poa sana.
Even though his mother provides everything, Chege, the firstborn of the family, seems to have matured faster than he should have. Two years later, despite the adjustments the family has had to make, he seems determined to do the best he can to make his mother proud.
Ningetaka kuwa pilot ama engineer.
Catherine Omwando for the Survivor Series.
Right, inspiring as always. We thank Catherine Omanto for that. We want to take a short break right now on KTN Weekend Prime. But just to let you know, Mashirima Kapombe, our very own Kiswahili anchor and reporter, has just won the Children's Reporting Award. That's at the Media Council 3rd Annual Media Awards. We congratulate her for that. Mashirima Kapombe, our very own, winning the Children Reporting Award. We congratulate her, and we'll be giving you the details of those story in our subsequent bulletin, so do stay with us for that right here on KTN, your award-winning station. See you in a bit. Thank you so much for joining us and staying with us on KTN Weekend Prime. Now, just before we get into our news, I'd just like to remind you that Mashirima Kapombe, our very own, has just won an award, the Children's Reporting Award, at the annual Media Awards put together by the Media Council of Kenya on this World Press Freedom Day. We continue to congratulate her for that win and urge you to keep it KTN Kenya for that. All right, let's now take a look at other survivors who are picking up the pieces after the fiasco and the saga that took place in Sinai. All right. Now, the Sinai fire victims, Sinai is the place, rather, where 100 Kenyans perished when an explosion on an oil pipeline triggered a massive fire slightly more than 2 years ago. Today, we bring you the untold story of those who lost everything and are now trying to pick up the pieces.
Unlike the biblical theory of the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire at Mount Sinai, what happened in Nairobi Sinai residential area on the 12th of September 2011 was the saddest event of that month in the nation. An explosion that followed a fuel spill caused fire that consumed the lives of 100 Kenyans and their properties as well. The story of Mai Wanjiru brings into sharp focus the fate of those who lost their jobs and all investment in the fire.
Pande ya nyumba kila mwezi nilikuwa napata kama 15k. Naweza nguruwe unajua unakaa muda kabla uuze. Sasa nilikuwa nakaa baada ya miezi 6 ama 7 nauza.
People are now trying to pick up the pieces and rebuild their lives after the tragedy that happened 2.5 years ago. The Mois are the owners of this land. They had put up their housing investment, which had for years been their source of comfortable income by any standard.
Gava ilisema tusikijaribu kutengeneza tena hapo nyumba. Sasa ni kama kupoteza tulipoteza. Na ni mahali mtu alikuwa anajitegemea.
Joseph Moi, who has been a farmer in Sinai, lost not only built-up property but also his animals. The fire roasted his pigs, cutting down the number from 47 to just 7. But the most painful was what happened to his wife. Moi has now assumed most of the duties that his wife used to do.
Yeye alichomeka uso na mikono na mwili mwingine alichomeka pia kwa mgongo.
The fire reduced them nearly to beggars, wiping away in fairy flames what they had worked for years to build and nurture. Now they can barely scrap together enough to survive on each day. Occasionally, they seek help from friends.
Marafiki washani accept. Juu anajua si unajua ule mtu anajua Kenya kilikufanyikia hizi kutenga.
This family lost 5 relatives on that fateful day. This photo is now a reminder of both the love they shared as a family and the pain of their loss. The government has so far given the family 10,000 shillings in the last 3 years, but their hopes now lie in the case in court presented by Senator Mike Sonko, seeking a compensation of 25 million shillings for the victims. Habiba Ali, KTN.
Let's now take another break. Coming up next is the sports news. Do stay with KTN.
And shifting gears now to some rugby news, Kifaru and Ndovu gave their indications of winning this year's Bamburi Super Series after winning their second matches in Kakamega today. Kifaru edged out Papa 8-6, while Ndovu were 46 winners against the visiting Victoria from Uganda. Ndovu had won their first match in Kampala last weekend and are now leading in their group. The Bamburi Rugby Super Series takes a 2-week break to allow Kenya Cup semi-finals and the finals to take place. The final rounds of the tournament will be played in Nakuru, with Kifaru taking on Rwenzori and Ndovu taking on Chui.
And before we wind up our bulletin tonight, we just want to bring you the latest pictures coming into KTN right now of the scene at the Mwembe Tayari at the coast, where the explosion took place that left at least 3 people dead. The pictures that you're seeing coming in just now. The explosion happened just about 2 hours ago at a bus stage. Nelson Mara, the county commissioner, informed us that a suspect hurled a grenade at the bus stop, and these are the pictures that are coming in. 3 were dead, several injured. About 15, we understand, is the number, and you can see the injured there in hospital receiving treatment. This is footage just in from the Mombasa explosion. And we'll continue to keep you updated on that. But as always, we continue to celebrate our very own Mashirima Kapombe, like we told you. That story that she did on the nightmare that children face crossing the road, getting to school every morning, was called Nivushe Nifike. She's just won that award in the children's reporting category. And I'm just getting this in, and this is news that's coming in the 3rd Annual Media Awards. Mashirima Kapombe has won yet again in the gender category, I believe it is, for gender reporting. We are indeed proud of our colleagues right here at KTN, and particularly proud of Mashirima Kapombe for winning 2 awards tonight. And of course, we will continue to keep you updated on this one. Congratulations once again to Mashirima. We thank you for joining us tonight and for watching our bulletin. Our sign language interpreter tonight, William Silla. Have a good night. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.